Good afternoon. I believe that it is good business to give money away. Not to waste money, not to squander money, but I believe it is good business for companies to give money away to nonprofits who are doing work for the environment. Yvon Chouinard and Craig Matthews. Yvon Chouinard was the founder of Patagonia. Craig Matthews was the owner of Blue Ribbon Flies. Founded 1% for the Planet on this very premise, on the premise that giving money away is good business. They founded the organization in 2002, believing that companies should commit to paying what they referred to as an earth tax. Not the best way to sell the concept, but an earth tax, a commitment that companies would make every year to support the planet that sustains all business. I've been the CEO of 1% for the Planet for 4 months. My background is as an outdoor educator, as an environmental leader and collaborator, and as the parent of 2 children that I'm raising on planet Earth. And I have learned through these personal and professional experiences that we need to think and act differently if we're going to address the complex problems that we now face as a planet. 1% for the Planet has 1,200 member companies and 4,000 nonprofits who are thinking and acting differently. We are the biggest global network that is committed to connecting companies, nonprofits, and consumers to think and act differently together to make change. So let me describe how our model works. This maybe makes it look a little complex, but it's actually quite simple. Member companies commit to donating 1% of their annual sales to nonprofits. The nonprofits do amazing work on the ground to address a wide range of environmental issues: climate, land, water, food, species. Our 4,000 nonprofits address all of those issues in creative and amazing ways. The companies write their checks directly to the nonprofits, and 1% for the Planet certifies that giving. That's a very important piece of what we do. We make sure that every single year, every one of our member companies is donating a full 1%, in many cases more, of their annual sales to those nonprofits. The example that I have here is of Finlandia vodka, and what I'd like to showcase is the way in which this giving can be aligned with the brand in powerful ways. So Finlandia vodka has chosen as their issue clean water, a good fit for their product. And what they have done in this example, through their markets on the East Coast of the United States, they are focusing on their giving on nonprofits who do work on oyster restoration, restoring oyster beds in ocean bays as a way to clean those waters. Now, one of the things that I have learned from our partners at Finlandia is that people who drink vodka often do so while eating oysters. So they have had a very powerful point-of-sale opportunity to tell this story to consumers. And they've had great results. In the markets where they have activated around this giving, they have seen their sales increase by 7% in just their first year of 1% for the Planet membership. In other markets where they did not activate around this giving during this same time period, their sales actually declined by 2%. So consumers are interested in this giving. And I'd like to talk a little bit about consumers. In our model, I've described member companies and nonprofits. The third important guest at the party is the consumer. That's what makes it all go around. Consumers make purchases, which drive sales, which increase giving. And it's a very important cycle. And we are learning that the consumers are very interested in making purchases of brands, of products that are authentically aligned with making real change in the world. The Guardian, the UK newspaper The Guardian, came out with an article last April. And this article was focused on, did my slide go away? This article was focused on the way in which conscious consumers are a growing network of the consumer base that is interested in purchasing products that make a difference. They want their purchases to be a way that they can deliver on their desire to make solutions in the world, to see change in the world. In this article, they identified through the survey that 74% of those consumers would pay up to 5% more, and sometimes even more, for products that made a difference. So not only is there a growing network of these conscious consumers, but they're willing to pay more for products that make a difference. And companies are responding. I think many of you have heard about purpose-driven companies. 1% for the Planet companies, many of these companies are purpose-driven. They want to be responsive to and provide an option for these conscious consumers. I was in Chicago last week speaking with our member network there, and we had a small event, and one of our member companies was talking about her commitment, her purpose, and she described the giving that she does to her nonprofits, and then she paused and she said, you know, it's kind of like religion. And I sort of paused and got a little worried because, as you probably know, we Americans can sometimes get a little extreme in our religious views. So I took a deep breath and thought, well, there's nothing I can do. I'll see where she goes with this. And then she said, it's like religion. You get out of it what you put into it. And I thought, okay. I let my breath out. That was okay. It makes perfect sense, and that's exactly how it works. When companies put into it, when they give to nonprofits, they make an investment in making a difference in the world, real impacts on the ground. And they're able to tell that story to consumers. Consumers are interested in purchasing those products. Remember my Finlandia example, an increase in sales. So consumers buy those products, they drive sales up. And we create a really powerful circle. You get out of it what you put into it. Another really interesting thing that we're seeing that's very powerful is we're seeing that there's a lot of creative ways to engage consumers through nonprofit activities supported by companies. So many of you probably recognize this handsome fellow. This is Yann Arthus-Bertrand, who has been in the news a lot lately around his film Human. He is also a 1% for the Planet ambassador, and he is also a board member of the Good Planet Foundation. And they have created a very powerful and creative initiative called The Solution is in the Plate. And what this initiative does is it creates a very concrete way for the public, for consumers, to realize the ways in which they can make choices in their purchases, in what they choose to eat, in what they choose to put on their plate, that can address the big issue of climate change. Many of us have felt overwhelmed by the big, complex issue of climate change. The Solution is in the Plate is one of many examples amongst our member companies and nonprofits of a way that people can make incremental changes through their purchases that make a difference. 25 to 30% of all greenhouse gas emissions are generated in the food system. Food production, food distribution, food waste. And the Solution is in the Plate, which is supported in part by 1% for the Planet member companies Havre and La Nature. Solution is in the Plate gives people a way through their daily choices about what they eat and what they purchase as food to make a difference. Now, I want to talk a little bit about why nonprofits. So I would imagine many of you might be asking, aren't there just easier marketplace solutions? Can't companies do it all through the marketplace? Well, companies can do a lot through the marketplace, and we absolutely support that. Addressing supply chain issues, changing purchasing practices, changing energy load through simple actions like LED lights. A lot of businesses are and will and should be making a huge difference through their everyday practices. But there is a distinct and important role for nonprofits. Nonprofits can play the role of being a third-party certifier. Nonprofits can play the role of providing expertise on issues that cut across different industries and different products. Nonprofits can go to a particular place and address a particular issue where there may not be a product or a service. So there is a distinct and very powerful role for nonprofits that we support and we engage our companies in supporting in our effort to think and act differently through the 1% for the Planet initiative. In 2014, Andrew Winston came out with a fabulous book that I recommend called The Big Pivot. And in it, he described 3 mega forces that will shape how the world, the planet, and the ecosystem of companies and nonprofits and consumers will need to act moving forward. These 3 mega forces are that the world's going to be hotter, scarcer, and more open. Hotter because of climate change, scarcer because of population growth, climate change, many different factors, and more open because of technology and because we want it that way. And his charge to all of us who, in the face of these 3 mega forces, is to do a big pivot, to pivot away from an economy that is focused on short-term gains, and to pivot toward an economy that takes a more clear-eyed view of our need to respond to these forces and to address the environmental issues that we face. 1% for the planet represents an important way that companies can make an important pivot by giving money away and keeping the earth in business. Thank you.